This potential Matthew Stafford trade remains the top story, and it is percolating in Indy. The Rams have given Stafford's agent permission to speak to other teams about his market value. He's due to make $27 million on his current contract this coming year. Their head coach is Sean McVay. Listen to all the things he had to say yesterday about where this thing stands.
There's no dispute, and let's not get it twisted in regards to anybody wanting him to be our quarterback. Now, there's layers to it. We had something in mind, he had something in mind, and nobody was right or wrong. And then ultimately you're saying, hey, there's a ton of interest because this guy's an incredible player. He and I have had great dialogue throughout this process. I know where we wanted to be able to end up, but these decisions aren't made in a vacuum, and that's kind of the challenging part about it. But love this guy, and he's been incredible for us.
Okay, so my dear friend Nick Khan has a theory. He always says when someone asks you how you're doing, the longer it takes you to answer, the worse you're doing. Dan Graziano in Indianapolis. Those were a lot of words from Sean McVay, which suggests to me there's a lot going on. What are you hearing with your ear to the ground at the combine?
Yeah, I mean, if things were rosy and Matthew Stafford was definitely going to be back with the Rams, it would have taken a lot less time for Sean McVay to say that, but that's not the case. He may be. It's entirely possible the Rams and Matthew Stafford reach a resolution on his contract that keeps him in Los Angeles. But to this point, they have not. And as you mentioned, there are other teams that have had permission to talk to Stafford and his agent for the last few weeks about what the contract would look like. And, the Giants are one of those teams. I think, there's been a couple that have checked in. So really we're at the point where Stafford knows what's out there in terms of a contract, and he has to decide whether he'd rather take whatever the Rams are offering or whether he'd rather go somewhere else and finish his career with a different team.
Tim Hasselbeck, I wrote down all of the different cliches. There's layers to this. No one's right or wrong. There's a ton of interest.
Yeah.
We had great dialogue. These things don't happen in a vacuum. He said all of those things.
It makes me think that Matthew Stafford was like, all right, look, this is what I think that I should be getting paid. And the Rams were like, whoa, like we're far. Like we're far apart. That's kind of what I took from that. Is that it wasn't like this was close. It was like, there's a canyon between what you think and what we think. Hey, go check and see if that value is real. Like, go see if, what you're saying, go find out if that's real. And what we may find out is that it's more real for Stafford than it is for the Rams.
What do you think of this, D. Wood?
I can't even believe that we're sitting here talking about Matthew Stafford not even being on the Rams. Bro, that dude has literally put that franchise on his back since he was traded to the Los Angeles Rams. And this is all about money. That's all this is about. This is about money. This whole notion of, well, why don't you go out there and test the market? Do you know how many desperate teams are out there looking for a quarterback that need one? The Pittsburgh still needs to move heaven and earth to get a quarterback. I don't want to hear anything about a Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. We've seen that. I don't want to see it running back anymore. Go get a legitimate quarterback that you can contend with within your own division.
Yeah.
Let's start there.
Right.
Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. How about we go get a Matthew Stafford and let's really see what the Pittsburgh Steelers can do?
Well, so Graziano, let's jump ahead to that because look, the Giants are the team we keep hearing about.
No.
And if I'm the Rams, I'm like, oh yeah, sure, Matt, go play for. Let me see him go sign to play in that weather behind that line. So I understand where they may be thinking of calling a bluff. What teams should we be expecting to be really aggressive here as this thing gets settled?
Yeah, I think the Giants are definitely interested. I think if that could work out for them, that's probably the way they would go. But you have to trade the Rams something too, right? And then so you talk about Pittsburgh, historically not a team that does a lot of trading, right? That is going to bring in a lot of big names from the outside at the expense of draft picks. So maybe a little more conservative. And then you have to pay Stafford, and you've got a 37-year-old. How long is the contract going to be? That's kind of the crux of the issue with the Rams right now. So it's complicated. Those are two teams to watch. I think, Cleveland is probably sort of a team that would at least check in because they have quarterback issues to figure out, but they also have the second pick. I think it feels to me like if it's going to not be the Rams, the Giants feel like the most likely destination.
Yeah, and that can't be as attractive to Stafford. It just can't be. I mean, you said
It's a very kind way of putting it.
well, I mean, just haven't you been like, if you're 37 years old and it is about money, Damien, and it's always about money. Guys can say whatever the heck they want. It's always about the money. I don't care if you've made $300 million playing football. It's still going to be about the money. And so for Stafford, listen, making $40 million, $50 million playing for the Giants for a couple of years, like I don't think that's the answer for him. I really don't. Now, playing for somebody that can legitimately be a contender, I think is, and that's why Pittsburgh feels like it makes way more sense. But it's still going to be about the money because there's a level of respect, I think, that happens. Damien said it. Everyone has seen it. He's been an absolute warrior for the Rams, and he has changed. Like their bet on him won them a Super Bowl.
Right.
And so now all of a sudden you'll be like, all right, I'm making. I think it's less than Kirk Cousins will make.
Well, let me show you. I'm glad you mentioned that. Cindy, can we put up A49? Stafford is slated to be the 16th highest paid quarterback in the league next year. Here's a list of quarterbacks making more money than him without meaning to disrespect them. But Geno Smith, Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, Derek Carr, all making considerably more money than he is getting.
I would be pissed too.
Yeah.
What Stafford has done, in his career, especially his time in Los Angeles, and you tell me this is what I'm making and all these other guys? What is Sean McVay and the Rams organization, what are they doing? Like, what are they thinking?
Well, he's thinking there's layers to this. Nobody is right or wrong. Right. That's why there's a ton of interest. But we've had great dialogue, and these things don't happen in a vacuum. Yeah. I mean, I just started writing it down. It literally was like a long mean of words. And I love Sean McVay. There's no one. If I had a team, he's the first person I'd want to hire to coach my team. But he's talking like a man who knows this thing could wind up going sideways. Graziano, meanwhile, there's a ton of morning. My friend Nick Kahn always says, when you ask someone how they're doing, the more words it takes them to respond, the worse they're doing. Keep that in mind, and you listen to Sean McVay talk about where things stand between him and Stafford.
There's no dispute, and let's not get it twisted in regards to anybody wanting him to be our quarterback. Now, there's layers to it. We had something in mind, he had something in mind, and nobody was right or wrong. And then ultimately you're saying, hey, there's a ton of interest because this guy's an incredible player. He and I have had great dialogue throughout this process. I know where we wanted to be able to end up, but these decisions aren't made in a vacuum, and that's kind of the challenging part about it. But love this guy, and he's been incredible for us.
Boy, that was a lot of words, right? I mean, that is a lot of words. There's layers to this. He's got something in mind. No one's right, no one's wrong. Of course there's interest. These things don't happen in a vacuum. I'm not suggesting that there's a problem with the relationship between McVay and Stafford. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I mean. What I'm suggesting is that's a coach who sounds like he thinks there's a real chance Matthew Stafford isn't coming back, which is why this conversation is very worth having, whether it is Pittsburgh. And I wanted to put the note in there on Anthony Richardson as well, because Graziano, that's what they should do. The Colts, they need to save their job. The leadership of the Colts need to save their jobs. They missed on Anthony Richardson. Everyone knew it at the time. It was a ridiculous decision to draft him and start him immediately the way they did. Everyone knew it wouldn't work except them. The one chance they have to save themselves is to bring him in, let him play in a dome in a winnable division. I'm not suggesting it's what I expect to happen, but I actually think that one would make a lot of sense. What do you think of that, Graziano?
I don't think the Colts are ready to give up on Anthony Richardson. And I think, this regime that drafted him, if they do give up on him, that's probably dangerous for their job security as well, because you can say, well, what happened? You bet everything on this guy and he didn't work out. Anybody can go trade for a veteran. So I think if the Colts bring in a veteran, I think they will, it would be more, somebody who would compete with Anthony Richardson, maybe push him, maybe play if and when he gets hurt. As opposed to somebody who would just sort of take the reins like a Matthew Stafford. I hear you. You're not wrong. I'm just trying to tell you where I think their mindset is.
The 49ers got to trade Lance for three overall.
I think this is where it's interesting. You kind of are half admitting you're wrong when you bring in someone to compete.
Right.
Like you're admitting that you're wrong because you're competing with that guy, but you're also not solving your problem. Truthfully, if you're even saying, look, we're open to a competition, you might as well just fix the problem and admit your mistake, which is why Stafford makes more sense than somebody that's on like a 1 year, hey, prove you can be a starter deal to actually compete with Richardson. Like you're admitting you got it wrong. You might as well fully admit that you were wrong.
You're saying I'm right?
Yeah.
Yes, you are right.
I didn't see that coming at all. Not for 1 minute. T Wood, final word.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
Rip it off.
Rip the Band-Aid off. You like Chris Ballard and company have been in the building every day watching Anthony Richardson, not only the games, the practice, every little thing that you need to evaluate to see if this guy's going to be a franchise quarterback. You've had 2 years. You've seen it. Like, this whole competition stuff, just rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah. Because the other alternative is you're saying, well, we're going to go out and get a quarterback, but not a very good one. Like, that's really not a good strategy. You're right. If you're going to go get a quarterback, go get a really good one. Speaking of really good ones, let's get up and go.
How's it going, everybody? Villa Sports Network here. Just want to thank you guys for your support on the channel. Thank you guys for watching the video. Hope you all enjoyed it. Also want to kind of remind you to don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment on the video if you like as well. But regardless of the fact, thank you again for your support, and hope to see you on the next video.